Good evening, hello everyone, and welcome to day 3 or part 3 of our topic. We are going to need more wine. We've been exploring this intricate miracle that took place, Jesus' first miracle to take place in Cana, where he turned water into wine, where he was invited to a wedding. And to recap, what I spoke about on part 2 was the fact that we spoke about what happens when the wine runs out, whereby certain things in our lives, when the personalities that I try to link wine to a personality, that if happens when the personality does not match with the character, that what should you do when people find out that not everything that glows is gold, that when they dig a bit under the surface they discover you are not all that you have hyped yourself up to be. What then do you do? Now, of course, we said we go back to a bit of introspection. From introspection, you discover that wine actually is not 80%, it's 86% water. That water is the base. You go back to the base, to the core of who you are, your character. You look at those things because a character feeds to personality, not personality feeds to character. And that when you discover the core, when you stick to the core, to what it is, it might not be appetizing, because one of the most important things in life is not to aim to be pleasing or to appetize. It should not be anything that you do consciously. You should work on your character, and if you work on your character, if we work, even including me, if we work on our character, you will discover that your personality will be pleasing as well, because personality is the mask that we put on for the world, but character is who we are when nobody is watching. Right, so now let's go to part 3. Going into the text, so when the water runs out, when the wine runs out, that is from John chapter 2 verse 3. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine. In verse 4, Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." Now, this is a very, very interesting interaction between mother and son. Son has the ability to do anything. He has the power. He is God. He can do it. And so the mother goes to him and says, "Listen, we are in this party and the wine has run out." So now the party is not all, people are now disgruntled because the wine has run out. And so Jesus answers and says, "So what does that have to do with me? I'm not the, I'm not the," in a sense, to me, as I'm looking at it, Jesus is saying, I am not the host. I just an invited guest. I will not meddle in people's business, because I'm just a guest. And sometimes this, when you look at it from that perspective, it makes sense how Jesus puts it. It might sound a bit rude when, I can imagine if my mom comes to me and says, "Hey, there's a problem here," knowing full well that I can deal with this problem, and I say, "Hey, it has nothing to do with me." You know what I'm saying? It may feel kind of some type of way. I don't know how Mary felt, but also there's a response that she says. She goes to in verse 5, and probably we'll talk about that tomorrow, where she says, his mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it." All right, maybe we'll talk about that one on the next part, but today I want to focus mostly on what Jesus says, "My hour or my time has not come." Growing up, we were told, especially parents, teachers at school, that first things first. I remember when I was in primary, we had a teacher geography teacher who used to say every time she came to class, the first things that came out of our word after greeting us, first things first, that was homework. And then from homework, and then we'll get to whatever the the lesson of the day was. So it became part of our trademark. As soon as she came, we even imitated her. First thing first. And you know, to that, even that's what parents used to say. First things first, worry about your school, worry about getting an education after education, job after job, relationships, you know. There's a hierarchy of things. Don't start with that which you end with, you know. But of course, growing up, nobody really pays attention as much. It's only when you've grown up, you realize in life, you take a bit of knocks in life, that's when you realize that maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have focused more on this, maybe I should have done this, maybe, you know, I shouldn't have rushed things, you know. And so excuse me, I have my throat is a little bit scratchy. So Jesus, the interesting part is that after this chapter has happened, after his miracle, his mission or his work, his ministry had started, you know. But somehow he says, my hour has not come. So now there's two ways you can look at this. One, he could say, look, for now, my time is not now. It's not my time for ministry. I still have to gather some whatever I need to gather. But you discover that he already had disciples. So you already had the personnel. So his mission, he had already been baptized. He had already been to the wilderness. He has already gone through the process. His cousin, John the Baptist, has already pointed out to him that he is the Lamb of the world that takes away the sins of the world. You know, so it meant that, yeah, now the time has come for him to start his ministry. But at the same time, when he gets to this wedding, he says, my hour has not come. You know, suggesting that. So for me, I'm not of that view saying that his ministry, but rather I'm of the opinion, another opinion that says, well, he was saying, it's not yet my time for me to die, you know, to have the Lord's Supper. Because if you skip to a couple of chapters later, towards the end, as he's having his Passover meal with his disciples, when they have the supper, he breaks bread. He says, this is my body which was broken for you, eat it. This is and he pours wine into the cup and says, this is my blood, you know, that would be spilled on your behalf, and all that. So it signifying his death, you know, that his blood will be spilled. So when he says, my hour has not come, for me, I tend to lean towards that, where he says, I'm not yet here to die for my blood is not yet to spill. I'm not here to be broken for these people. It's not that. My time has not come. Not my ministry. My ministry has started. I'm here at a party. I'm at a people's business. So my ministry has started. But my hour that I be lifted up, that I die for the sins of the world, has not yet come. Fine. But most importantly, I like to point us to the direction of not rushing things. Going back to what I said, what parents used to say. You know, there's this thing in life that you feel that life is passing you by. And if you don't, you feel that, you know, especially when you look at your peers, you look at other people before you who've gone before you, they went through the same journey, and their things got, you know, sorted before your time. And when you get there, you discover that things are not happening for you. Things are not connecting. Things are not clicking. Things are not working out, whereby you feel now it's time for you to force things. You know, there's nothing more dangerous in life than forcing things, like forcing love, whereby you feel that, oh, I should be in a relationship right now. I should be married. I should be in my own home. I should be being successful. You know, I've been in this company for X amount of years, yet every promotion passes me by. You know, I should be done with my studies. I should be doing this. I should be, you know, sometimes there come a point in your life where you say, I should be, but it's not happening. And what do? Where you feel like your life is stuck, where you feel like your time is not coming. There's this famous chef whose name I just forgotten. he passed away a couple of years ago, tragically. And one of the things he used to say, he became a famous chef. He had noodles with Obama in Thailand or Vietnam. Anthony Bourdain. You know, one of the things he says he was never successful, although he started being a chef in his teens, late teens, 20s, 30s, working at restaurants, trying, and things didn't work out for him. He only became successful when he was 40. So you can imagine how hard this guy was working from his teens, late teens, 20s and 30s, and only his time came when he was 40, and he only enjoyed his success for a short period of time, and then of course he passed away. And so one of the things that he says, don't look at your years and say by this, don't count things by milestones and say by my milestone at the age of 30 I should be like this at 35, because sometimes you'll be disappointed, and there's nothing more sad than dealing with somebody who's disappointed with life, where they feel that there are certain areas of their lives are not fulfilled, because they will never get to appreciate the little or the success that they have. They'll never count blessings one by one, because they are looking at the star and forgetting that they've climbed a tree, they've been above the ground, and they're just looking at the stars. So sometimes it is very important to be self-conscious, to say, look, my time has not yet come. I'm not going to force my situation. I'm not going to force things to happen. I'm not going to manipulate. I'm not going to bully. If it comes at a time where it feels or it appears or seems that I'm old, or you know, this thing I should have done 10 years ago and now it's only happening now, rejoice, because there are times in our lives where God will delay certain things in our lives, not because he hates us, not because he feels that we are undeserving, not because we've been unfaithful, none of that. But sometimes God will delay certain things about us simply because he is building us, so that when we finally receive that which we've prayed for, that which we have worked towards, that we will not squander. You know, it is the story of the prodigal son. The young man takes everything and he goes and he squanders it, and after he squanders it, he comes back. Why did he squander it? Of course, the story says there was a drought, which or famine in the land, which forced him to lose. You know, there was an economy downturn where people, the cost of living shot up, and his savings and whatever he had, the inheritance, ran out. But most importantly, one of the things we must note that the son probably lost everything simply because he was not mature enough to handle the blessing that came from the father. That is why he squandered it and he came home. Even when the circumstances were not conducive, he couldn't maintain it, because he was not mature enough to maintain that which the blessing. So it is very important for us to know that if our time has not come, that we should not wait bitterly, but we should wait in anticipation. When the wine has run out, don't force things. Don't look at your neighbor's wine and say, maybe if I take his wine, it will be better. Maybe their wine is better. Maybe their vintage is better. It is not for us to grab, because what is yours, it will find you. Like Jesus, when he started his ministry, he had a 3.5 ministry, and when his time came, it was perfect. The sacrifice was perfect. It was acceptable to God. He did not rush it. So it is important for us to know that when your time has not yet come, don't be envious. Do not be envious of others whose time has come, because you do not know the struggles, the battles that they went through in order to get it. And when your time has come, pray and work towards, if I get and when I get my wine or my blessing, or when my hour comes, I'll be mature enough that I'm able to sustain it and multiply it. Because the most important thing is for us to multiply. Whatever it is God has given you, He has given you a gift of music. Not just for you to sing and sit down, but work at it. So that when your time comes, when your hour comes, you'll be able to multiply. Multiply so that it is a blessing. What Jesus was able to do, He was able to bless everybody with wine. So today, let us look at our time. Let us not rush into things. If it has not happened to you, maybe you're feeling that I'm getting too old before my things happen. God says in Joel chapter 2, I think 28, He says, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. Time. The years, it's time. God, He says, I'll give you that which nobody else can give. Time as we know it, it goes fast. It goes forward, it never goes back. But God says, I will give you what the locust, the years that the locust has eaten. May God bless you. And as we look more into this topic of we're going to need more wine, may God bless us to know that when our time comes, it will surely come and we will enjoy it.